Hello and welcome back to another episode of White Album 2. We are currently playing through CODA. So everything is super sad. Kazusa found out about her mom's illness. She's very, very upset because her mom couldn't promise her that she's going to stay alive longer than she is. And she ran away, and Haruki knows. So let's see how this mess tries to ravel itself up.
ドアが閉まります。ご注意ください。
What will happen to Kazusa from now on? I'm sure those who know her only as Toma Yoko's daughter, world-famous young pianist, would say something like the following. Take after the path your mother took, or travel the world like your mother, or your mother can't keep at it anymore, even if she tried. And in response to those people, I'd probably say something like, don't go running your mouth about something you know nothing about, in an indignant rage. It's nothing so simple. She doesn't have that kind of resolve. After all, she actually is a really weak person. She's incredibly naive and without determination. She doesn't live in the normal reality most people live in. Not only that, even in the unnatural reality she lives in, she still is a true genius who managed to improve through effort, independent of her talent and painful fantasies.
まもなく1番線御宿行きが参ります。白線の内側までお下がりください。
And now, she has broken down at her very foundation, losing everything she built up, all because of a nobody like me. Can I still ask her to gather her resolve despite that? Can I ask her whether she still intends to hold the concert as planned? And how she plans to live her life from now on? Can I ask her whether she'll live in Japan with her mother, just as Yoko-san wants her to? Or if she'll convince Yoko-san to return to Vienna with her? Or perhaps, if she plans to go down the path Yoko-san was supposed to go down, standing above countless people and challenging the world together? Or if she plans to go down the path Yoko-san was supposed to go down, but unwilling to rely on others, and challenges the entire world by herself? Or perhaps, God, there's so many options. You can't know all of somebody's life options. Am I supposed to tell her to give up? Am I supposed to tell her that the man she loved, the man who loved her, doesn't exist anymore? Am I supposed to tell her to face the fact that our feelings just never came to fruition? And that goes for the both of us.
2番線発車いたします。ドアが閉まります。ご注意ください。
Or perhaps, this really is the worst imaginable possibility, but she might end up abandoning both her mother and her piano. Will she turn her back on the world she has lived in up until now and shut herself into a new, tiny world that she herself desires? Will she turn her back on the expectations her surroundings have for her, as well as the feelings of her family? Will she feign strength despite her weak heart and approach a future where any semblance of a normal world would be ruined? How ridiculous. Of course she isn't capable of that. She could never make such a dreadful choice. She will stand still in place, crying all the while. That's why such a possibility is impossible. Well, it's not, because that's why they call it a possibility. In other words, that's not something she's capable of alone. It's a future that is physically impossible for her to reach. Assuming that no one gives her a push from behind. If if that's the case, if she can't decide by herself, will someone else decide her life for her? Will someone tell her what to choose? But wouldn't that be the same as determining her life for her? Doing so might be arrogant. It might be the deed of a devil who toys with the lives of people. I mean, honestly though, for better or for worse, Haruki has been doing that. You know, getting someone to eat right, making someone get up, making someone practice piano, getting them on schedule, of course, are all really good things. But in a sense, he's also leading her life because she might not have done that by herself. But does that mean that it's okay for that someone to do nothing? Is it okay for that someone to not protect Kazusa? At some point, the date changed. Regardless, the windows of the editing department are lit up like always. But the person I want to rely on the most isn't here anymore. It's been 2 whole years after all. The person I owe so much to. The person who taught me how to survive in society before I entered it.
私に任せておけ。編集長が送没と言ったって、発売日にはお前の記事がちゃんと載ってるはずだ。
I miss Mari-san. She was so good. Honestly, her route was the least stressful to play through. I really, really liked it. Mari-san, I've done my best. I've worked the hardest I can so I could follow in your footsteps, even if only a little bit. I'm still only in my first year, but I've gained a bit of confidence. Thanks to that, I've fostered valuable bonds with people, and lots of precious ties of obligation with society. Mari-san, what would you do right now? What would Mari-san do? It's not what would Jesus do, it's what would Mari-san do? Would you still choose work? Would you choose your bonds with people? Would you choose your obligations to society? I don't know anymore. So, could you come back? Could you become my superior once more? And could you guide me again?
北原って結構ナイーブだよな。傷つきやすくて、自分で自分を責めてばかりで。
I mean, as far as like adult figureheads, or I don't want to say parental figures because it's not really what she is, but because of Haruki being so estranged from his family, he has no one older to look up to. He doesn't really have a mentor, and that's what Mari-san kind of became. She became that older figurehead for him. So of course he's gonna think of her during this horribly emotional time.
だから余計落ち込むのか。誰も自分を叱ってくれないから。叱った後許してくれないから。じゃあ私はお前を責めないよ。だから許しもしない。
That's right. I made a promise back then. I promised to decide by myself, to not leave things in the hands of others, to not pander to other people's opinions, and to not beg for forgiveness. Even if that means ignoring the thoughts and feelings of everyone around me. Okay, I think you're taking that advice a little bit incorrectly. That doesn't mean ignore everyone else's feelings. That just means some problems you have to think through yourself and then come to a decision, while considering the thoughts of everyone around you. I promised to resolve myself and carry all the responsibility by myself. I promised to be that someone. The streets of Onjuku, where the last train has already departed. Without looking for a warm place, I aimlessly sit down on a roadside guardrail. Exposed to the cold wind, the canned coffee in my hand is the only thing keeping me warm. Even when I look up, the thick clouds conceal every star in the sky. A night unbearable for people to loiter in. But in my thoughts, I see the warm expressions of all the people I've come to know, entering and leaving my mind. Takeya, Io, Yanagihara-san, and the people I've known since high school, classmates, upperclassmen, and underclassmen. Hamada-san, Kizaki-san, Suzuki-san, Matsuoka-san, the managing editor and the chief editor, my coworkers and superiors who are where I should be right now. Aside from them, there are many people whom I've met during work, as well as people who I met in private, people of all ages and genders. And then there are those who are more like family to me than my real family, Setsuna's mom and dad, and Takahiro-kun. And then there's the person who I treasure more than anyone in my life, and who has treasured me more than anyone in her life. There were, of course, times when there was trouble between us, when we were annoyed at each other's attitude, and when we made each other mad. Things were not perfect, but through communication and honesty, we always made up. We always returned to our usual warm smiles before long.
寝る
That's why she, too. Someday, she will learn to naturally smile warmly in front of other people, just like everyone else. Even if it's painful for her, even if she's forcing herself, she'll definitely be able to live with a smile. I'm certain. How many percent is certain? Is it 100%? Is it absolute? God, this is the very definition of overthinking things, because thinking about things doesn't always get you to a conclusion. And that's Haruki's problem here. He's trying to get to conclusions. Like that night, he's like, I'm not even gonna sleep. I'm gonna figure out how to make Kazusa happy. Sometimes you can't think your way to making somebody happy. There's no solution where everyone's gonna be 100% guaranteed to be happy. Will she, of all people, manage to connect with many others? Can she show them her smile and make them happy? And as a result, will they make her happy in return? What kind of fantasy is that? Can I believe such a pipe dream? Am I even allowed to make myself believe it? I have memories with countless people. I have an innumerable amount of connections with society. That doesn't just go for the past. Even now, I meet new people every day. And through those meetings, I establish more connections with society. My world may be a small one that bears no resemblance to Kazusa's world, but I'm thoroughly connected to every corner of it. Unlike Kazusa's world, mine is a world that is open to the outside. When I live in such a vastly different world from her, it's not possible for me to say, she'll be fine, as if I know what it's like.
Oh.
And here it is. Here's the falling snow, just on cue. As I was trying to pass the night walking around in circles as I was, God decided not to forgive me. At last, it started falling. It fell on the day we made our promise to always be together, the three of us. It fell on the day when three became one, as two broke away. It fell on the day when two, separated, became a pair of ones. It fell on the day when the pair of ones tried to become two again, but couldn't bring themselves to forgive each other. It fell on the day when the pair of ones swore to become two again, after having hurt each other countless times. It fell on the day when two became three again. And it's falling today. That's right. It has to be today. Today, I arrive at the crossroads of my life, as well as that of the three of us. The decision I make today will end up affecting the lives of the many people around me.
私の前から先に消えたのはお前だろ。勝手に手の届かないとこに行ったのはお前だろ。私がつまらない男を好きになって何が悪い。
After all, ever since that day, winter has always been what set my fate into motion. It was always snowing on those days. It was always snowing. My chest hurts. Something presses against me, something much more bitter and painful than the permeating cold of winter and the freezing snow. It's telling me that I can't run away anymore. It's telling me I have to make one of two choices, and one of those choices is one I thought I already made. But it's about time. It's about time that this has been made. You know, if this was real life, you should have been making this choice like years ago. The snow seeps through me. A pain intense enough to tear off my heart and tear my body apart assaults me from within. Why? Why do I have to hesitate so much when I'm supposed to have made up my mind once in the past already? I know what the right thing to do is. I know that it's right, precious, and joyful. Despite that, I hesitate. Because this will be my final choice. If Kazusa can't decide, then I will. I will obey only my own feelings and choose the one person more precious to me than anyone else in the world. Who do I want to make happy? Who can I be with and not regret it, even if it is the wrong choice? I can't back out anymore. This will be my final choice. Let me think about this until the snow stops falling. So, if possible, don't stop falling until sunrise, at least. God, Haruki could overthink something for like 5 years, so telling him to wrap it up in one night is pretty intense for him.
本当にそんな電話があったんですね。こちらの部屋のお客様から。
だからこんなに急いでるんじゃないですか。一刻を争うんです。
しかしあなたがお客様の関係者であるということがはっきり証明できたわけではないので。
事務所に確認してくれって言ったでしょ。それで連絡はついたんですか。
いえ、そういうわけにも。何しろもう午前2時を過ぎてますし。
一刻を争うって言ってるじゃないですか。電話の内容話したでしょ。
事実なら確かに大事ですが、しかし先日も新聞社の方が関係者を語ってこちらのお部屋まで乗り込んできたことがありまして。
ああ、もういいです。俺が勝手にやります。あなたは警察でも何でも呼んでてください。もし嘘だったらそのまま俺を突き出せばいいでしょ。
I guess that's pretty rash.
わかりました。しかしまずは私どもの方でお伺いさせていただきます。それでよろしいですね。
お願いします。カズサを、彼女を助けてください。
トーマ様、夜分遅く申し訳ありません。
It seems that for my insistence, the gravity of the situation has finally come through to the room clerk. After nervously clearing his throat, he begins to knock on the door.
トーマ様、もしお目覚めになられましたら大変お手数ですが、こちらをお分けいただけないでしょうか。
However, neither his knocks nor his calls are loud enough to go through the bulky door and reach the other side of the spacious suite.
お休みのようですね。
だから反応がないって言ってるでしょ。フロントからの電話だって繋がらなかったじゃないですか。
それは。
カズさお願いだから返事してくれ。
ちょっとおやめください。他のお客様の迷惑になります。
そんなこと言ってる場合じゃないんだ。あいつに何かあったらどうしてくれるんですか。
From the very start, the hotel staff have been on alert ever since I rushed into the front desk. When I told them I was acquainted with Toma Kazusa and that I needed to enter her room right away, their suspicion only grew further.
カズサ、無事か。いるんだろ。おい、しっかりしてくれ。
本当に。
もし取り返しのつかないことになったら俺絶対に許さないからな。あんたらの規則ごと呪ってやる。
トマ様、ご無事ですか。
I spent dozens of minutes having a fruitless exchange with the front desk employee. Dozens of minutes, I've never heard that expression. Who told me that the rules meant that giving her a phone call on my behalf was the best they could do. When I told them that I hadn't heard from her since she sent her farewell on my answering machine, they finally became more cooperative. However, their doubts were still very strong.
くそどうすればいい。どうすりゃいいんだよ。
おかしいですね。これだけ騒いでいて反応がないというのは。
だからさっきから言ってんじゃん。
They followed me all the way to Kazusa's room, but still insistent on following the rules, they refused to do more than wait for Kazusa to open the door. Still, this is only natural. They value their guests above all else, and have no reason to trust a dubious stranger who showed up in the middle of the night.
くそ、やっぱり警察だ。いや、救急車。すいません、フロントから119に。
その前にドアを開けてみましょう。こうなったら仕方ありません。
It's about time. Up until now, he had been adamant about following the rules to the letter, but now it seems my desperation had finally reached him.
ただし、まずは私が中に入らせていただきます。お客様は許可なしに勝手に入ってきたりしないように。それが守れないようでしたら、こちらも規則を守らせていただきますが。
They were afflicted with the same feeling of uncertainty, yet I could sense their doubt in me disappearing, if only a little bit.
お願いします。カズさんのこと。
Perhaps my desperate pleas had finally reached the human side of the employees.
それでは、トーマ様、大変申し訳ありませんが、緊急事態につき失礼させていただきます。
He then grabs a key out of his pocket and begins to move it toward the keyhole. But at the very moment the key is about to enter, the keyhole moves backwards, as if avoiding it. Or rather, more accurately,
ご愁傷様。
the door opened.
そいつ、真に迫ってただろう。けど、大嘘つきのマスコミなんだよ。
カズサ。
And out of that door came a figure I hadn't seen for a whole day.
慌ててるふりしてるけど、全部計算づくなんだ。最初から、あんたを利用する気だったんだよ。
Oh, poor room clerk.
本当に心配してたんだよ。よかった、カズさん。
It's just that her farewell wasn't as profound in meaning as I had thought. It had already stopped snowing. Instead of piling up, the snow melted onto the road. The wind, too, is unreasonably cold. The sky is starting to clear up. By daybreak, I'm sure we'll be able to see the bright sun again.
なんで来たんだよ。
As I breathe into my hands for warmth, I see a white puff that soon disappears into the darkness of the night.
こんな時間に、あんな大騒ぎしやがって。本当に警察に連れて行かれても文句言えないぞ。
After that ordeal, Rather than pressing me for answers, the employee just turned bright red in bewilderment at the sight of Kazusa.
すぐに会いたかったから。
In the end, Kazusa brought the whole fiasco to a close with a single, dull statement of, "This guy is with me."
出てってから丸1日経ってる。ちっともすぐじゃない。
The room clerk chalked it up to it just being a lover's quarrel. He's probably heaving a sigh at the front desk as we speak. Poor guy, he deserves a raise.
そうだな。ごめん、遅くなって。
バカ野郎。誰も待ってんのか。
The problem is, he wouldn't exactly be wrong in that assumption.
どこ行くんだよ。
別に行くあてなんか。
Amidst the cool night wind, I walk around town with Kazusa at my heels.
なんだよそれ。こんな寒空の中、人を連れ回しておいて。
Her mood must be soured by being called outside in the middle of the night, and overwhelmed from all the things that had happened.
ならファミレスにでも入るか。そこで話そうか。
別に話すことなんかない。
そうか。
だからもっとゆっくり歩け。ついていく方の身にもなれ。
すまん。
In spite of that, Kazusa continues to follow me. She's desperately trying to match my pace so she won't get left behind. Oh, that's really sad.
でも寒い。やっぱり寒い。
こっち来い。少しでも風よけになるだろう。
At last, she lines up perfectly next to me.
さっきまで雪だったんだよ。
ホテルの窓から見てた。
やっぱ起きてたんじゃないかよ。
それがどうしたってんだよ。
Because she has no one else but me right now. Because no matter how much she curses at me and no matter how much she tries to push me away, deep down she wants me by her side. Well, yeah, obviously. Like, she's wanted you the whole time. Her problem is she doesn't want you by her side if you're with Setsuna. Like, it's not a difficult thing to figure out. I wonder if things would have been that much easier for the both of us if that self-aggrandizing conclusion was merely something I'd conjured up.
いつから知ってたんだ。母さんのこと。
ほんの最近だよ。1週間前。
どうして母さんはお前に話したんだよ。私にも秘密にしてたこと。なんで。
それは
お前の方が私より信じられるってのか。私よりも頼りになるっていうのか。
No, that's not it. That's definitely not it.
俺が強引に聞き出したんだよ。さっきみたいに無茶な手を使って押しかけて。
だったらどうしてお前は黙ってた。母さんから聞いたことを秘密にしてたんだよ。
お前がこうなるって分かってたからだよ。
Well, you can't just keep it a secret from her forever. She's gonna find out eventually. She could have found out without the betrayal of you keeping it a secret in the first place. Sure enough, she goes quiet, but all but outright admits that I'm right by hanging her head. That without Yoko-san to cling to, she no longer has any idea how to move forward. Only stretching her hand out to the empty air in the one vain hope of someone grabbing it. Walking all alone, crying and lost.
だからここ最近ずっと優しかったんだな。あんなにわざとらしさ丸出しで。
嫌だったか、そういうの。
そんなことあるわけないだろ。 お前に優しくされて嬉しくない私なんかいない。
But now she has the wrong idea about Haruki's intentions. Like, yeah, he was being a little easier on her, but he's always nice to her in general.
それもなんだかな。
Only stretching her hand out to seek me out.
けれどもっと自然にしてほしかった。裏があるって気づかせてほしくなかった。
That's the problem, because how is she supposed to trust when you're actually being nice or when you have an ulterior motive? It's not a good position to put someone in. But on that note, I think we'll stop off there for now. So, thank you so much for joining me on this chapter of CODA, and I'll be back with the next one shortly. Until then, hope you take care. See you!